Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Power Apps Learning Day 11. In this class, we will learn about what is Dataverse, what is the significance of Dataverse, why do we need Dataverse, how to create table, how to create relations, and how to leverage the table in Power Apps Canvas app. Along with that, we will also learn how to import the data from Excel to Dataverse table. Dataverse is a in-house database in Power Platform. Dataverse is basically a dynamics umbrella entity. It is not a brand new database which Microsoft had created for Power Platform alone. So Dataverse is already there as part of Office 365 and they are using as part of Dynamics already. So they cloned the same entity and added as a homegrown or primary database for Power Platform. When you look at the capabilities of Dataverse, or when you look at where the Dataverse is, it communicates, as I said, like Dynamics 365, it's part of, and that is Dataverse. And it was initially called as Common Data Services, CDS. Still, some clients call it as CTS, but the new name for that database is called Dataverse. It can communicate with Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Virtual Agent. And latest one is Power Pages. Uh, by the way, Power Platform got a new family member which is called Power Pages. So Dataverse also got another variant which is called Dataverse for Teams. What exactly that means is Dataverse for Teams is mainly meant to use in Microsoft Teams. What is Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams is a communicator which which helps you to do the collaboration across the organization, within the teams, outside the teams, outside your team, in fact outside your organization also. How does it look like is this is how it look like. So this is uh, like as any other chart engine. Okay, so this will give you a provision to communicate. So where do you see that in this is, so these are all called various tenants. You can switch between the tenants in Microsoft Teams. When you come here under apps, you see that Power Apps here. So this is absolutely a new entity or new element which you can create apps under that under Teams. When you create a app in Dataverse for Teams, it runs only in Teams. I repeat, when you create an app in Microsoft Teams, it only runs in Teams. You cannot run outside Teams. That variant of Power App is called Dataverse for Teams Power App. You can also implement the Power Automate flows and Power BI reports also. And if we look at the capabilities of Dataverse, Dataverse has wide range of capabilities. It is a fully relational database, like as your SQL Oracle. You can implement the tables in a fully normalized way by doing by avoiding the duplication. We implement normalization, and the normalization is fully supported in Dataverse. It can even create SSRS reports, Power BI dashboards, and it supports the triggers. What is trigger? Trigger means that it can initiate a job as soon as a new item is created in data tables, and it can initiate a process as soon as an item is updated under a particular table. And it can see it just it's it can establish a connection to Power BI seamlessly. So, what are all the limitations in Dataverse is that Dataverse is not a standard connector. What are connectors? In Power Platform, connectors are the bridges. Connector is a bridge between your app to database. So, depending on the database type, the connector will vary. Example, when you connect to SharePoint, SharePoint is called a standard connector. You don't have to pay any additional charges when you use SharePoint as your database. But when you use Dataverse as your database, you will have to pay additional licensing cost to Microsoft because it is a premium database which gives you nth degree of normalization. Hope you got me. Any questions are up to here? So when you typically look at the architecture of the Dataverse, this is how it look like. When user is using any one of the entities under Power Platform, whether it could be a Power App, Power Automate, Power AI Builder, or Power BI, it first sends the request to a load balancer. Who is a load balancer? Load balancer is a methodology which is an algorithm which receives the user request and process by sending the user request to the available web server on the um, web technology in the web technology. So when it as it shows, first the request goes to load balancer, and load balancer will send to web server. How does it sends to web server? It identify which web server has a free bandwidth to process the user request. If web server W1 has a free bandwidth, it will send to W1. If it is W3 or W7, it will send to that. Then web server will process the user request or user call, and then it will send the request to appropriate uh, location. It could be a job, or it could be a reporting engine, or it could be a sandbox solution. However, it can end of the it end of the it communicates with the database, and the database looks like this. It will have SQL elastic pools to expand the space of the tables or entities, and it also use the blob caching technology to store the files, and it use the Cosmos DB behind the scene, so it supports the performance, and it also supports the search, and it also supports data lake storage. What is data lake storage? Data lake storage is again another ocean where you learn when you get into Dynamics 365 environment. Okay, so this is a typical structure of Dataverse, and where those connections sit in Power Platform is when you go onto Maker portal of Power Platform. Under data, there is something called connections, and there are two type of connections. One is the direct connections or standard connections. You could you could establish a connection to required data source by clicking the respective connector. Another one is custom connections. What is custom connections? Custom connections is something which you uh, could establish a connection to native databases or databases outside Office 365 environment. What is outside Office 365 environment? When you see of office.com is the one which gives you the entry pass to Office 365 environment. Under that, there is something called Azure. If you try to recall, we are going to portal.azure.com to create new users under Office 365 environment, isn't it? Are we doing that or no? So when you try to recall portal.azure.com, right? Under portal.azure.com, what it will do is it will give you various options. You see that it also it has Azure Active Directory, it has virtual machine, it has SQL Server, and it has policies, functions, Azure functions they call it as, and it has subscriptions, various options. So when you notice that it also give you a provision for you to create SQL databases, but user has a Oracle database, which is a legacy database which they are using from last 10 years for their legacy applications. Now user don't want to switch the database from Oracle to any other database. So then what we have to do, we have to create the custom connection to communicate with the user's legacy database. Okay, that is when we use custom connectors. Okay, when you go to make.powerapps.com, under the Dataverse, there is something called connections and custom connectors. Okay, and when you click on connections, it will show you all the various connections what you have already established under your tenant. And when you click on new connection and search for Dataverse, you will see two things. One is a Dataverse and the other one is Microsoft Dataverse Legacy. Don't get confused with Dataverse and Dataverse Legacy. Dataverse Legacy was the old connector where Microsoft has created or established when they have created to communicate with CDS. If you try to recall, we we just discussed that the legacy name for Dataverse was CDS, Common Data Services, right? Isn't it? So that time they have one connector which is the old connector, and they renamed it as Microsoft Dataverse Legacy Connector. But what is latest is Microsoft Dataverse. And if you notice, it clearly mentioned that it is a premium connector. What is a premium connector? Again, a premium connector is a additional license. A premium connector is additional connector which gives you the capability to communicate with data Dataverse or sorry, basically premium connectors are something Microsoft has divided to have additional license called per user, per app, or pay as you go. I repeat, premium connectors are additional connectors or a separate section of connectors Microsoft had divided. To leverage these connectors, you must have additional licenses called per app, per user, or pay as you go model. Students, very, very, very important. If you have any doubt, please ask me. I repeat, premium connectors are a separate connectors Microsoft has established to communicate with the databases or data sources. But to leverage these premium connectors, you have to have additional license called per user, pay as you go, or per app. What is the difference between these three type of connectors or licenses? When you go to licensing guide, see per app pricing, it has something called per app plan, per user plan, also something called pay as you go plan. These are three different type of subscriptions you have to leverage premium connectors. What is per app plan is when you take that license, additional license, you can communicate with one app by establishing a premium connector. Per user plan is expensive, but it gives you a flexibility to create any number of premium connections to any database, because if you see, premium connection is not only the Dataverse connection. You have SQL connector is a premium connector, Azure automation is a premium connector, Salesforce is a premium connector. There are various other premium connectors. But if you take the per app model, you can only create a premium connection to only one app. But imagine that you have to create two different apps for two different business units. That time you cannot create if you have per app model. Sorry for too many awnings. I was working until 2 a.m. in the morning, so I'm feeling super drowsy. Sorry once again for too many awnings. Uh, where are we? Okay, so basically it will give you the flexibility to create as many premium connections you want. Last one is per app, sorry, pay as you go model. It also runs as app level. Thank you. So pay as you go model. What does that mean? Pay as you go is, if you notice, per app and per user is a recurring uh, recurring licensing model. You will have to pay every month to Microsoft. Meaning, whether this month I am using the app or not, you will have to pay that licensing cost to Microsoft. But pay as you go model is something that you don't have to pay every month unless and until you use that pay as you go model. Unless you use the license for that month. If you use the license or if you run the app for that month, that is when you will have to pay the licensing cost to that month. Okay. So coming back to this, first thing what you need to do is that you need to create a connection to Dataverse. So since I have already have many connections to Dataverse, I'm not creating anymore. See this, I already have three connections, two for the new model and one is for the existing model. And if you want to see what are all the apps which are using by that connector, you can just go to connector and say Dataverse, click on the ellipsis icon, say details and apps using this connection. It will show you all the apps or flows where you are using that connector. Okay. Similarly, on the other side, when this comes details apps using this, so mostly I'm using only in the flows, both the connectors. Okay. And when the connector got created, when was the connection got established is 2020 is when I have started initially established this connection. Okay. Now under Dataverse, there are something called tables, choices, data flows, Azure Synapse Link, connections, custom connectors, and gateways. Gateways and custom connectors are advanced topics we are not going to include as part of this course, but we will be learning intricately about creating tables, what are choices, what are data flows is also advanced, as your synapses link is also advanced. So we will learn these two intricately. Okay. How do we create a table in Dataverse? Click on the tables, click on new table. When you click on new table, it will give you an option to create a table by giving what is the display name, and plural name is something which comes for the internal reference, which is what you see in your app. And the description, enable attachments. If you try to recall in SharePoint, when you create a list, you can also add attachments to each and every list item, right? Similarly, here also you can add attachments to the table rows. Each and every row you can add attachments. And what is the schema name? Schema name will get generated automatically. However, if you want to tweak, you can tweak. What is the type of this table, whether it is a standard table, activity table, or a virtual table. And record ownership is user or team or a organization. And to choose you, if you want to choose a custom image for the table, you can always choose that. If you do not choose, this is as you could see, this is an optional field. Um, these are all again optional things. You don't have to worry about it. And rows in table can have connections appear in search result. So obviously we will select search results to appear ఏ విధంగా select చేసుకోవాలి. We will select this and can be taken offline. So which means that this table can be a offline table. What does it exactly means? That user can pump in the data, but it doesn't save until and unless you get the connectivity to that table. Okay, next one, let's go ahead and create the table. The table name, what I'm going to create is device details. Same old data we are going to create. If you try to recall, we are using the device information details to create the apps, right? This is the detail we are using, we have been using to create SharePoint lists and everything. So let's go ahead and create a table to import this data and create an app with this data. Okay, and if you notice the time I mentioned, it created a schema name. It is internal representation, and I have selected what are all it should be available in search. Okay, now I'll go ahead and save. It will create a table for me under Dataverse. Students, if you have created the developer environment, switch on to developer environment, because the default environment under Power Apps is not coming with Dataverse environment. So what I am requesting you to create the developer environment by following the video I have provided long back. Okay, if you do not create the developer environment, you cannot practice Dataverse. Okay, and I'm very strict that if anybody is creating a project without Dataverse, I'm not going to approve. I repeat, if anybody is creating a project without Dataverse, I am not going to approve, or I will not give sign off. Period. Okay. And when you notice, as soon as you create the table, it just creates some default columns. This is the new look Microsoft had implemented for the Dataverse tables very recently. With this look, you can switch between the various options of the table. The first option is columns, which is also called the schema of the table. These are all the columns which get created by default. When you create, as soon as you create a table in Dataverse, so it creates one column called name by default. And what is the next option? Relationships. What are all the relationships? And first of all, what is a relationship? A relationship is the one which defines how you are mapping your data. Is it one to one? Is it mapped to one table to another table as a one to one relation, one to many relation? And many to many relation. I am assuming that you all have learned this as part of your data RDBMS. I hope you all have RDBMS as one of the subject. You have it or no? And you know this relations very much, right? So one to one, one to many, many to many. So the same concept here. So it will show you what is the relationships it has and what are all the tables which comes with the that relational model by default. If you notice, we have not done anything, but it has got a relation to many other tables. And one of the very important table is user table. This is a table which communicates or coupled with Azure Active Directory to get the full information of the user. Okay, uh, since it is a private or personal tenant, you would not see that information is super useful. But when it comes to the real IT, entire organization will sit under Azure Active Directory. And when I select a particular user, for the time being, if I select Divakar, uh, Divakar sir's name, it will pull out all the information about Divakar sir. It will show you what is his designation. It will show you which location he is working, what is the project he is working on, and what is his manager name, what is his business vertical. Every piece of information it will store in Azure Active Directory, and it will just pull from there. And the next one is keys. If you have any keys, primary key, foreign key, relationals, any keys, it will show here. And next one is this is all comes under schema. And the next one is data experiences. How are you presenting your data? What are the various ways you could present your data? And first one is forms. Forms to what you call to show the data or to tweak the data. There are three different forms you will get. One is the main form, card, and quick view form. We will learn this while we are going along the way. The next one is views. Views are to represent your data. How do you want to represent your data? Meaning that, example, I want a specific view in my table which shows all the columns in the table with all the data. And another requirement is to create a view, meaning a view is a subset representation on a table. Okay, uh, which means that using views I can represent or I can render my data like the way I want. Uh, One view I can create all the columns to be shown, and another view I can say like only four columns, another view all the columns with a filter, meaning like in this view I want to see all the records created by Sai Chaitanya, and another view I want to see all the records created by Sirisha. So that I can define meticulously, and when I click that particular view it will show only that information. If you see here active device details, when you go on to that view it will show all the records which are active, and inactive device details will obviously show the inactive records. Charts are the reports, and dashboards is again a reporting structure, and customization is business rules, and commands. Commands again, we are not going to cover in this. And business rules are something I define to implement the exceptions or implement the rules on my data. What exactly that mean? Um, if I mention the device price is $1,000, I should also define what is the type of the device, or while I'm submitting the new device, I have to provide the device price. I want to make it as mandatory, so that as that those are all the rules I can define under business rules. Or if I am selecting the device as a laptop, I have to provide the quantity, how many devices I am going to purchase. That must be provided, meaning I'm enforcing my user to provide some values while submitting the data itself. Okay, that I can enforce user by creating business rules. Any questions so far? Okay, the top one is called the ribbon, where it will give you various options for you to operate the data table or Dataverse table. The first one is to create another column or create a relation or creating a K and form all the other options, whatever you see here. Okay, but how do you create a row? So by clicking on add data, which will import the data, or when you click on edit, also you can create a new row or you can create a new table. Okay, and this is also Microsoft had added very recently. It wasn't there, so like 3 months back. It used to have a new row uh, right here on this view itself. Okay, now if you just edit, it will just create new row or new column. So when you click on new column, you can create another column, but this time it is creating a column in table. We just created a table. Now we are creating additional columns because we need to accommodate all the column types, right? So let's go ahead and create the columns. Next one is device name. It is already there as a name, so device title. Here we will define the data type. What is the data type I wanted to mention for the field? Remember, in Dataverse, the biggest drawback is once you create a column with one specific data type, you cannot switch the data type. I repeat, when you create a Dataverse table column with one specific data type, you cannot switch the data type down the line. Under the text data type, you have it is a plain text, text area, rich text, or email, phone number, various types. Again, under number also, whether it's a whole number, decimal, float, or duration or a time zone. Date picker, lookup is to create a relation to another table, and the choice is to create a choice of type like yes or no, or a list of choices, male female for gender, and device type, whether it is a laptop, tablet, or mobile, whatever it is. Okay, or if you want to create that value as an auto numbers are something which is very useful when you are intended to create indexing or intended to create a auto number. Example, receipt number is something should get generated automatically. We should not provide a receipt number, right or not? So last but not least, file, whether it is a file or an image, you need to select. Okay, is that clear? Now I'm creating a text field with the data type as plain text, and behavior is simple behavior or a calculated column. What is a calculated column? When you are creating a single line of text, you can also manipulate the table by creating the single line of text as a calculated column, meaning that when I mention the number of devices and the device price, automatically the total price has to get calculated, isn't it? When I say three devices and the price of the device is $1,000, so the total value of that order should get calculated automatically, which is $3,000. That time we will use this calculated column and we will define the formula there under that calculated column, but for now it is a simple straightforward column. And is it a required field, or is this a required field or an optional field, is something we need to define. If you say business required, which will enforce user to provide the data. If you say optional, user may skip this field. And what is the maximum number of character count? Meaning like what is the maximum length I am accepting this for this field is 100 characters, and input method editor is auto. I mean, you can just ignore that. Next one is enable audit. Enable audit is to this is something by default you get it. It will capture all the changes, meaning that when Krishna added one entry, it will add a audit history of that entry as who created and when it was created, uh, what was the value when this particular row is created for this column. Afterwards, Ravichandra had Chandra Varma had updated the details. So it will add one more entry on the history or audit log as Chandra Varma updated the device name from Acer laptop to Dell laptop or Asus laptop, whatever it is. So it will capture the audit information of that particular row. That is what is this. And if you want to enable security at the column level, meaning that this field should be only editable by Chandravarma and Krishna, nobody else should be able to edit or look at it. You can enable enable column security. Okay. Last but not least, whether this column is sortable or not sortable, you can always mention here. But in our case, it should be sortable at any point of time. So I'm selecting it as sortable, meaning whether it is ascending or descending. Any questions? Super. Very good. So I just created one other column called device name or device title. And similarly, we can go ahead and create all the other columns. You can create a column by clicking on new column, or you can also create a column by clicking on the plus icon here. Then what is this plus 18 more? Is that it will show you all the other columns which got created by default when you are creating the table, while you create the table. Okay. Let me go ahead and create another five more columns for the time being. So choice I'm creating because my device type is either a tablet, laptop, notebook, or all-in-one is what I have as part of my data. Okay, if you see all-in-one, ultrabook, tablet, laptop, notebook, is and that's all. These are the various types I have. Okay, so to show that I need to create as a table as a choice field and the device type, and what is the type is choice, and again it is a simple, not a calculated choice. Yes, it has to be searchable, and selecting multiple choices allowed or not, meaning like while adding the table, adding the data, I can say this is a notepad, also all in one device. Is it something I wanted to mention? I can select as allow multiple selections, and the next one is sync with global choices, meaning that when you are creating a choice, is this choice field allowed for other tables to leverage this? When you say allow is, which is recommended, I can use this device type choice field in other tables also. But when you say no, create a local choice column for this table alone. Okay, preferably, so I'm leaving it like that, and sync this choice with, meaning that do you have any predefined choice you have, meaning like these are all the various choice fields Microsoft had provided for you to select easily. But if you don't have a choice which shows your values, no rush, click on new choice. Say what is the name of your choice list is. Always remember, you create the choice list with ending with the suffixes choices, meaning device type choices, so that it will differentiate your value with other list of values. First one is laptop, next one is this value is the internal representation. Do not even try to tweak this value, because this may end up a conflict with another value. Okay, that's something I wanted to tell you. Do not tweak this value. Notebook, laptop, ultrabook, tablet. Okay, now I'll say save. See what happens. See, this is clearly telling that you already have one other choice field. Okay, I'll say device types choices. Save. Okay, now that choice got created. Now, if you go here you could see device types choices. See the beauty. When the time I highlight, it is also showing what are all the various choice fields I have for that choice. Okay, select that, and if you want to mention some of the value, one of the value as a default value, you can mention that. And the advanced options, again, it is sortable, and enable the audit is something coming by default, and the schema name, it is coming by default as device type. Okay, create that. One more column I'm going to create as device price. Before I go any further, just now we created one custom choices which comes under this. When you go to choices under Dataverse and search for device, see this device choices, device type choices. This is the one we created just now. Okay. How do I say that is, if you notice here device type, you will not see mobile. This is the one we created just now, which comes mobile. So the beauty is this device types choices I can use in any other table. Okay. Once you create a table as a globally available choice, you can add it into any other table. Now, last one is device price, and this is a number. Oops, sorry, but where is the currency? See this currency. Okay, this is currency type, and it is a simple. And next one is what is the minimum value and maximum value? Maximum value I'm going to set it as $1,000, and minimum value is $0. And currency precision. What do I have any precisions? I don't have any precisions, and input is auto ME, and this is sortable. And last two more columns I'm going to create. One is device count and total price. Oops, my bad. And this one is a number field, and it is a whole number. And only one thing I wanted to mention is minimum value as at least one is the minimum number of devices they need to select, and maximum I'm allowing 10 devices, and this is a sortable. And last but not least is total price of that particular order column. And this one is again number field. Sorry, it is where am I? Text formatting. Sorry, this is a number, and this is again a currency. And is it a simple? No, this is a calculated field, and calculation you need to define how do you want to create that calculation. This is a suitable. And now when I just say to add the calculation, you need to first save and edit. When you click on that, it will give you a provision for you to create your formula. Here it is letting you to define the formula for that calculated column. Any questions so far? You are all good students here. When I am attending this class from Microsoft, I have at least 15 questions. 15 questions at least. but you are like super duper students. Okay. Anyways, the total price, what how I wanted to calculate is basically this is the same entity, current entity, and what is the field is device count, and operator is it must have value, it contains data. Now, what is the action I wanted to do is first I need to say yes, and action I wanted to do is what I wanted to do device count multiplies by device price, right? Device, see, device count multiplies device price. That is the formula I want to define for the total price, right? Just say that and save and close. Now let's go ahead and add a row. Say device name is say Dell Inspiron 15, or what is the device type? Device title is uh, Inspiron. Say yes. What is the device type? See that I got it as a laptop, and the total price, device price is $500, and device count is, see, none of the records could be saved because I have not mentioned the device count. Save, and now I can go onto that. It is greater than the maximum value because I might have given the maximum device price is $300 for $100, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Say like 30. What is the constraint we provided? Edit this column. That's not the case. It automatically calculated. Did you guys notice that I did not enter anything under this? Till XPS 15. And what is the type of this device? Is a laptop, and the device cost is say like $500, and it is say two devices. It automatically calculated that, right or not? And it is automatically saving data saved. When I go back, I can see two records under this data. Okay, and if you want to create a new column, you can create a new column. If you want to add new data, you should always click on edit to add new data. Okay, any questions so far? Oh yes. You can see, you can just come here. Probably additional $10 is for shipping. Did you notice that? It automatically added $10. You can do that. Any questions so far? So this is how we can create the single table. So once the table is created, you can provide the data by providing by adding a table data by adding one rows, or you can also import the data from existing data source. Import the data from Excel is what we have. When you select that, it will ask you to provide your file name. So here I am just providing the device order data. So it will read through your Excel, and then it will ask you to map each and every column of the Excel with whatever the column you want to associate that into your list, into your table. So give a minute. The file could not be uploaded. Device file with more than one sheet. Oh, my bad. This should not have more than one sheet. The device information has more than one sheet. Let me go ahead and save it with only one sheet. I'll just select with Dataverse, and now this will understand. Yes. Now it is upload. Read that. Now with mapping error exists. Now I have to map my columns. Now what is what? What column I wanted to map with what? I want to map because this is a required field. I have to map with something, that is device name. That's more important. And the next one is device price is with price, and device type is with device type. That's all I wanted to map, and save changes. The following required field, so warning exists, that's fine. I'll say import. First thing is you have to map the required fields without fail, and then you can import your data. See what happens. It will import all the data to this table. Did not import. Device price, what we have mentioned, the maximum price is $1,000. But if you notice here, I have device prices more than 1,000. So what? All those have not got imported, which is 25. Now, if I go back to my data and just refresh that, see that it imported all the other rows. 60 additional rows are there. If you go here, it imported all the rows wherein it is within the range. The devices which has price more than 1,000 did not come through. Okay. And if you just say device count as 5, automatically it will calculate these um, total prices. Did you notice, students? So, which means that it imports the data which satisfy the conditional rules, whatever we created for that particular table column. This is how you can create a table and you can import your data at one go. Any questions? Okay. Now, let's go ahead and create another table called manufacturer information, because we wanted to do the lookup from that table to this table, right? Because the manufacturer name is something we wanted to associate for all Acer. We wanted to say manufacturer name is Acer, right? Now create new table. So go to here, tables. See, manufacturer details is already available. I have created for your seniors exactly 1 year ago, so same time. So these are all the manufacturer details. Now if I go back and say device details, is this the one we created just now? Yes. Now create a column, but this time I'm going to create a column as a lookup. What is that? Manufacturer details. Manufacturer name. Uh, Data type is a lookup, and but this is not an optional business required field. And if you notice, the time I say lookup, it asking like, okay, from which table you are trying to do the lookup. This is manufacturer. Where is my manufacturer table? Manufacturer details. Okay, under manufacturer details I wanted to get the information. Now if I click on save, it will take a lookup on the table, but it will also ask you what is the relation, or you can go to relations and you can change the relation how the relation should be. By default it creates one to many relation. Now if I go to relations, I'll see another relation called manufacturer relation, relation with manufacturer table. uh, See this manufacturer details table, many to one. Now when I click on that relation, it will show you what is the table. This one is many devices can associate with one manufacturer, and the name is manufacturer table. And what is the column it is looking at? Manufacturer name. Okay, this is how it got created relation. That is how relation got created. Now if you go here and say I wanted to see as part of this view. Now, if I just say that edit, this is device data. My bad. Now I can just select the device name. See that? It's coming as a lookup. Acer, and this one is Dell. Students are able to follow me or not? So that is how I can create a table and I can create a lookup column to look at another database, sorry, another data table to get the details from that table to this table. So in this class, we have discussed how to create a table, we discussed how to create a relation, we discussed how to create a calculated column, all the things. Now, last but not least, how we can use this table as part of your Power App. And now go back to make.powerapps.com, create a new canvas app, say device details, Dataverse demo, it's a tablet. Under data, come here and say device details. It by default shows that. Under data, come here, device details. When you select that, it get associated to your table. Okay. Now coming here, add a gallery, and you can associate that table here, right here. See that? It clearly shows like it is created today. Okay. Any questions? Okay, that is how we can create a table and we can do the validations, and we can enforce the validations maximum and minimum numbers, and also that is how we can create a lookups in Dataverse tables. I repeat, we are going to create our project only in Dataverse. We are not going to create projects with SharePoint as a backend database unless you show me a clear convincing factor that this is something you cannot create in Dataverse. It has to be in SharePoint only. Okay. Okay, that's all for today. We learned intricately about Dataverse. So tomorrow's class we will uh, go next step, that mobile responsiveness. We will implement how to, what is mobile responsiveness, what are responsive containers in Power Apps, and how to implement a responsive apps in Power Apps to render the apps on mobiles. That's the tomorrow's topic. And homework for you guys is complete creating the developer environment and create tables with all the topics what we have discussed today. Create a single line of text, create a choice field, create multi lines of text, and enforce the value range, and also create a lookup column in your table. Okay, again, if you do not practice you will not learn anything. That's all for today. If you have any questions, stay back and ask the questions. If you don't have any questions, you are absolutely good to leave the class. Have a nice evening.